Hello everybody, welcome back. We are here again after a nice Diwali vacation. Let's get back to our work. Okay. Our first lesson that we are going to do this term is like for your unit test that is going to come is perimeter and area, that is lesson number 11. Right. In this, what will be our learning objectives? What are we going to learn in this chapter? That is our learning objectives. The learning objectives are, first it is you will learn the definitions of all the important terminology, of all important terminology that comes in this chapter. Okay. Next is you are going to derive the formula to calculate the perimeter and area of certain figures and shapes, regular figures and shapes. Okay, the figures and shapes that we are going to do here is to solve or to find the perimeter and area of figures like any rectilinear figure like a square and a rectangle. We will find that of a parallelogram. Okay, you will find of a triangle and circles. So these are the three figures that we are going to learn to find the area and perimeter of. You have already done the rectilinear figures like a square and a rectangle. How we find the perimeter of a square and how we find the perimeter of a rectangle, or how we find the area of a square and the area of a rectangle. Right. So let us just warm up with finding the area of a square and a rectangle using the formula which you have already learnt previously. So this is just a warm-up and I want you to do it on your own. Okay. Number one is what is the formula to find the area, perimeter and area of a square and of a rectangle? So this is your warm-up. You should know how to find the perimeter and area of a square and a rectangle. Square and a rectangle, we call it rectilinear figures because they are made up of straight lines. They are four-sided figures. In a square, all the four sides are equal. In a rectangle, opposite sides are equal. Both in a square and a rectangle, opposite sides are parallel also. Right. The angles of a square and the angles of the four angles in a square and four angles in a rectangle are also equal. Right. To find the area of a square, how will we find the area of a square? Okay, before that, let us just go to the perimeter. How do I find the perimeter of a square? Now, before I come to how we find the perimeter of a square, let us understand what is perimeter. Now, perimeter is the boundary of a closed figure. Any closed figure, the total boundary is the perimeter. When we talk about total boundary, it means it is the sum or addition of all the measures of a boundary. If it is a square, all four sides form the boundary and the four sides are equal. So perimeter will be side plus side plus side plus side. So perimeter of a square is side plus side plus side plus side unit. Now how many? This is repeated addition of a side of one number. So repeated addition of one number is side is repeatedly added how many times? 4 times. So perimeter of a square is 4 times the side. Measure of the side unit. That will give you the perimeter. Perimeter of a rectangle, perimeter of a rectangle is also the total or the sum of the sides of a rectangle. The sides of a rectangle are not equal. Only opposite sides are equal. So, the side which is long is known as the length. The side which is short is known as the breadth. Okay. So, to find the perimeter of a rectangle, it is again total. Total means addition. You are adding length plus breadth plus length plus breadth unit. Now, how many lengths are added? 1 plus 1. So, 2 length plus 2 breadth. Now, 2 length plus 2 breadth means 2 times length plus 2 times breadth, which can be written as 2 times length plus breadth unit. So, this is the how we find the perimeter of a rectangle. Remember, perimeter is total boundary of a closed figure. So perimeter, you add the measures of the boundary. If the measures are separate, add it. If the measures are same, find out how many boundaries are there and multiply it with that. So always remember, perimeter is the sum total. That is why we get perimeter by adding. Okay. Now, area. Area of a square and a rectangle. Now, area of a square is given by side multiplied by side. Area is always a product. You have to multiply. It is the product of its dimensions. So, side multiplied by side, unit square. Side multiplied by side can also be written as side square, or write it as side multiplied by side only, and unit can be written as side multiplied by side, square unit. It is also known as square unit. Okay. Similarly, area of a rectangle is given by the dimensions of a rectangle is length multiplied by breadth, square unit, or you can write it as unit square. So this is the area of a rectangle. Area is found by multiplying the dimensions Perimeter is found by adding all the dimensions of the given closed figure. Right. Now the next warm-up will be to work out a few sums. I'll just give you two simple sums to work out. Find the area of a square whose perimeter is 36 centimeter. What is given here? Perimeter is given 36. You have to find the area. From the perimeter, find the side. After you find the side, you will get the area. Next one, number 3. Now you are going to work out these two sums. It is a warm-up, so you work it out. Okay. The length of a rectangle is 2 times its breadth. Okay, length of a rectangle is 2 times its breadth. If its perimeter is 36 centimeter, find its area. More or less the same type. Here the length of the rectangle and breadth of the rectangle is not given. Relationship is given. Use your knowledge of simple equation and work it out. Okay, so these are the two warm-up questions. Right, now let us start. As I told you when we started, when our learning objectives was that we need to know the definition of the terminology that we are going to use in this chapter. The first terminology, as I had already explained, but still I shall write it down, the definition again, which you are going to write it in your notebooks, okay, in your classwork notebooks. Perimeter. Now, perimeter is the sum of the boundary of a closed figure, or you can also say it is the total boundary of a closed figure. Now the closed figure can be of any shape. I'll give you, supposing this is a closed figure that we have. This is, let's say, figure number 1. Okay, and this is figure number 2. This is figure number 2. Now, I'll name this figure as A, B, C, D, and this figure, let's say it starts at the point A. Now total boundary will be of figure number 1. If I start, that means you have to come back to its starting point. So if I start from here, I move this way, I move right around, move right around. I have completed the boundary when I come back to my original place. So when I come to the original place, I say that I have moved around the boundary. Now we have moved around the boundary. Now the total distance that you have moved around the boundary is the perimeter of this figure. Now this is not a rectilinear figure. This figure is just a closed figure, closed curved figure, but the total of the boundary will give you the perimeter of this figure. Similarly in this, you move from A, reach B, then from B you keep moving till you reach C. From C you move till you reach D. Still we have not completed going right around. So from D we move upwards reaching A. So here also I have gone right around the figure. That means I went from A to B, then from B to C, from C to D, and then back to A. So the distance from this, that is distance AB plus BC plus CD plus DA, is my perimeter. So the sum of the boundary is the perimeter of any figure. Okay, so I hope it is clear, the definition of a perimeter. Now we go on to area. Now supposing I take the same figure which I had taken, figure number 1 and figure number 2. This was the shape of our figure number 1 and this is figure number 2. Okay, that is the shape. Now area is the space which is in, this is the boundary, the black line is the boundary, black line is the boundary. This area is the interior of this figure, this is the interior of the figure. So whatever space is there in the interior of the boundary, when you have the boundary, interior of the boundary, whatever space is there, that space is known as the area. So here inside the boundary, interior means inside. Inside the boundary, whatever you have, the space that you have inside the boundary is the area of that figure. So when we talk about area, then what is area? Area is the space within the boundary of a closed figure. It is within the boundary of the closed figure. So area is whatever space inside that is the area of that figure. For example, this is a whiteboard. This boundary tells me it is forming the whiteboard. Boundary is the perimeter of this whiteboard, and what is white where I'm writing, that portion is the area. So that is the difference between perimeter and area. Perimeter is the boundary closed of a closed figure, and area is what is inside that boundary. Whatever you have inside the boundary is the area of that figure. Okay, right. So I hope you have understood what area and perimeter is. Now, we go on to the special figures. First, I'm just going to go very quickly about the definition of those figures, and then I come to the area and perimeter of those figures, maybe in my next one. So the first figure that we are going to deal with is known as a parallelogram. Parallelogram is again a four-sided figure. It is a rectilinear figure made up of straight lines. We also call it a quadrilateral because all quadrilaterals are made up of four sides. Rectangle is a quadrilateral, square is also a quadrilateral. Similarly, a parallelogram. A parallelogram it looks like a pinched rectangle. Pinched means if you pull the rectangle from two corners, okay, then it forms a parallelogram. In a rectangle, all the angles are 90 degrees. Whereas in a parallelogram, the angles are not 90 degrees. General, I'm talking about general. When we come to it, rectangles can also be a parallelogram. But when I talk about a parallelogram, in general, the angles of a parallelogram are one acute and one obtuse. Opposite angles are equal. They are the opposite angles. So opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. That is one of the properties. But basically, a parallelogram is a figure in which the opposite sides, if I name this is A, B, C, D. Opposite sides, like AB is opposite to DC. AB and DC are opposite sides. Now, opposite sides of a parallelogram, opposite sides of a parallelogram are parallel. That is why it got the name as parallelogram. Are parallel and they are also equal. Opposite sides are parallel and equal. AB is opposite to DC, so these two are opposite sides. Therefore, AB is parallel to DC and AB is also equal to DC. Now, which are the other two opposite sides? AD and BC. So, AD is parallel to BC and AD is also equal to BC. AD is also equal to BC. So this figure ABCD is known as a parallelogram. Right. Next figure is a is a triangle. A triangle is a figure, a closed figure, which is made up of three sides. A triangle has three sides made of straight lines. Each side, each adjacent side. Now AB is next to AC, so each adjacent side meet at a point. AB meets CA at A, AB meets CB at B, AC meets BC at C. So these points A, B and C are known as the vertices, and AB is a side, BC is a side, AC is a side and BC is a side. So a figure which has three angles, that is why triangle, and three sides. A closed figure having three angles and three sides is known as a triangle. Okay. Next figure is a circle. We are going to learn about area and perimeter of these three figures. A circle is a closed figure, but it is not made up of straight lines. It is made up of one curved line. One curved line. This is a circle, a closed figure. Now a circle has a center. Okay. Now the distance from the center to any point on the boundary, this is the boundary, from the center to the boundary is known as the radius. So the radius at any point of the circle from the center to any boundary, the radius of a circle is always equal. So we say the boundary of the circle is at equal distance from the center. Okay, this figure is known as a circle. The boundary, which is the perimeter, boundary of a circle is called the circumference. It is known as the circumference. The boundary of a circle, instead of calling it the perimeter of a circle, we will call it, it is given a special name, we will call it the circumference of a circle. So these are the three figures whose area and perimeter we are going to do, that we will do tomorrow. Okay, goodbye and have a nice day.